Did you know that Elizabeth Taylor and Jeff Goldblum dated?
No. What?
I know.
I was just thinking about, is this controversial? I might be done with Jeff Goldblum. I feel like I have seen him do the thing he has done. I recently watched The Big Chill. It's like, wow, we've been doing this for close to 40 years now. All right.
Welcome to Keep It, Crooked Media's show about pop culture and politics and what happens when they smack into each other at an alarming speed. I'm your host, Ira Madison III, a television writer and Fall Out Boy fan.
I'm Louis Virtel. I'm a TV writer and Jane Fonda historian.
And I'm Aida Osman. I'm a TV writer and alleged comedian.
Let's get into it.
Welcome back to Keep It. We're in our third week of this seriality where the two co-hosts you're familiar with simply cannot be found. No idea where they are at this point. It's like Nelson Rockefeller's kid, just lost in the bush of Australia somewhere. And I'm here again this week with our good friend Guy Branum. Welcome back.
Good to be here. Good to be back.
And our other guest today, man, it's like emotional to introduce this person. She's mine and Guy's great pal. Most importantly, she is halfway to EGOT, so we're going to investigate that in a second. You know her and love everything she does. She's the Oscar winner and now Tony winner, Diablo Cody. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
After Jason Momoa and Lisa Bonet's announced split, we began to wonder why people cared. What makes some couples ripe for tabloid fodder and others boring? Why do we not believe some couples are together at all? Why do we care who strangers date? And I'm just going to offer this. I love when a perfectly square celebrity ends up with somebody you don't expect at all. And it just feels like things are lightly out of control in a fun way. And the example that comes to mind immediately for me is, and this is not my favorite celebrity couple ever, but I think a fun one. When Sarah Jessica Parker dated Robert Downey Jr., even the pictures of it brings me back to that feeling of chaos of, you know, Sarah Jessica Parker is like a spreadsheet keeping on the rails person, and she's dating this utter wild card. You know, like Sean Penn and Madonna or something like that. Guy, Brooke, please enlighten me. Who are your favorite couples and why?
Just to like go off of that for a moment, there's this way that the 1980s like created this world that where like every opening was a play place for these like 20-something celebrities, and they were just in each other's faces so much that they just all ended up dating each other regardless of how inappropriate it was. On the subject of SJP, I love the brief period of time she was with JFK Jr. because it was just sort of like in a very Carrie Bradshaw way, trying on a pair of boots that are not for you and being like, I can't deal with this. But I mean, like, the apex of American culture was 1996, Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt. Like, we had a culture we could believe in at that point in time. Our connection to that is so sad because we keep willing this thing to happen, even though two human beings have moved on and have their own lives. And that's one of the hard thing about these conversations is that it is taking human lives and turning them into iconic figures, and that isn't appropriate, but also we need that. We need something to worship.
I agree. And Louis, I just have to say that I love that you were deeply affected by the Sarah Jessica Parker, Robert Downey Jr. relationship, because I think you were probably 8 years old at the
That's
time.
Correct. Yes.
But I believe you. I believe that it had an impact on you, even at that stage of your life. And it was a good one. And Guy, I'm glad you brought up Brad Pitt, because Brad Pitt's relationships are my favorite thing in the world, because as many online have observed, Brad Pitt takes on the style and flavor like tofu. Brad Pitt absorbs.
That's so funny.
He absorbs the vibe of whoever he's dating, and you can go through photos of his dating history and see this. And when he was with Jennifer Aniston, no cap, when they got married, he got highlights to match her. They got brother and sister highlights. A hairdresser has like confirmed this story. And like, I love that for Brad.
I mean, he really tried on specific flavors and I guess became specific flavors. But like, does not his relationship with Juliette Lewis speak to you the most?
Yes, it does. And I didn't want to talk about it because it's a little bit contro these days, because she was like 16 and he was 27, Louis.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but like, yes, it's totally intriguing. You know, she's got like problematic cornrows. I mean, there was a lot going on at that time. But I mean, they were a beautiful couple. And Brad was definitely at his most like outlaw because he was with her.
And he was making just movies we simply don't care about anymore, like California, right?
With a K.
Yes, right. What was he trying?
On the subject of couples who come to us from the dark side, Mary-Kate Olsen and Olivier Sarkozy.
Right.
First of all, like, two great political empires merging. But just that thing, when the reports came back from their wedding that, like, there were bowls of cigarettes, like, it was just this moment of realizing, like, oh, that couple. And you understood why this 20-something, like, this 20-something girl and 50-year-old, like, French president's brother somehow made sense once you realized, like, they were just, like, smoking and experiencing ennui about all things.
Yeah, I think the Olsens may be the definitive ennui celebrities. I mean, truly, the inexpressed. I mean, now we've had the confirmation from Elizabeth Olsen. I don't know if you saw recently. She was confronted on the street by paparazzi who say, "Why are you so much nicer than your sisters?" And she said, unblinking, "You guys been bothering them their whole life." And this is why they live in a bowl of cigarettes now. You know.
Wait, has Ashley ever been publicly linked with anybody? Because I feel like I've heard of a few Mary-Kate suitors, but I can't offhand think of somebody Ashley has dated, and I'm usually like an encyclopedia of random celebrity couplings.
As far as I know, no, though I am going to do a controversial Google, which makes me hate myself. Let's see Here we go. Anything coming up. In 2021, who is Ashley Olsen's boyfriend, Louis Eisner? Yeah, he seems kind of norm. And she actually seems delighted in the pictures, which is a new brand for her. And I'm glad she's trying it out. By the way, I was just thinking, so I just said, I like the chaos in couples, but there's this flip side where I like people who were seemingly born together, as in they're a complete set. They belong on a shelf together. And what I'm talking about is a Peter Sarsgaard, Maggie Gyllenhaal, you know, like the exact same indie cred. Like one could not exist without the other almost. This is the same universe as a Rhea Perlman, Danny DeVito. Or I think the ultimate in this case, Gene Wilder and Gilda Radner, who I think might be maybe my favorite couple of all time. Because who knew you could put that much zany and that much like they're all elbows in one couple.
I would like to speak to like the opposite of that, which is complementary energies. Like, I love a Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson because it's like Rita's got her own fucking career. She was great in Volunteers, but like she's also just like showing up and supporting at every goddamn award show. And like, it's just such a weird kind of work to have to do for your spouse. And I love to watch her do it. I also really love a celebrity couple where you are able to tell the story of they love each other so much it's iconic, and are they just beards for each other at the same time? Katharine Hepburn, Spencer Tracy. It's like I go back and forth between like what an iconic love that could not be contained, and also they were just fucking other people, right?
I think that is the case. And also, how many movies did they star in together where the whole point was she's a strong woman, but unfortunately she can't make toast. And eventually she's taught. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to talk about couples that seem like they came off the same shelf or were like made for each other. I mean, I know we were, you know, we're mourning the dissolution of Lisa Bonet and Jason Momoa, but what about Lisa and Lenny?
Yeah.
Like that was a moment. I remember when they had Zoe, because I'm old, and like it was, you know, that was a beautiful moment.
I mean, it really was like the iconic moment for Jews of color in America. It was like, when else are we going to get that?
Well, you're just going to put the entire career of Sammy Davis Jr. away like that. All right. Now, keeping it controversial here on Keep It. Well, you know who's an interesting couple because of where they met in time and now they're still together. And this goes with the funny couples thing. Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Brad Hall. Yeah. Because it's a remnant from the part of her career that no one talks about when she was on SNL and he was a Weekend Update anchor. And they're still together. And obviously she is the Beyonce of sardonic comic acting. And he's, you know, around and an actor, but you just never think about that part of their careers together, and it's just rad to see somehow.
I sometimes don't trust the couples who've been together a really long time. It just seems so weird to me, maybe because I'm like a divorce machine, but like, I'm always like, oh, I don't know, that seems kind of strange, really? 30 years? Okay. That's just me projecting my own weirdness onto happy people.
Yeah, and I mean that like there is so much sort of like fetishization of like the longest Hollywood relationships because they are relatively unusual, and I think there it is also interesting that like some of those relationships you think of as going on forever, realizing like Betty White and Alan Ludden were together for like a little over 20 years because, you know, they built careers and then they married relatively late. After Betty passed, watching videos of her and Joan Rivers together were really, really amazing because it was two people sort of processing the loss of their husband who they love very much, but also was like in their professional life in a very significant way. And the rapport that they had was something you kind of wouldn't expect because like after Golden Girls, you have this like sanitized image of Betty White and you forget that like she's also Sue Ann and also she can like sling the jokes that she fucking needs to.
Betty White was, I mean, I would describe her humor generally speaking as sly, but she could go there. I mean, there was occasionally like a dirty joke here and there if you watch all the episodes of Password, etc. I just want to say about Joan Rivers and Edgar, her late husband. Wow, I'm still calling him the late husband, even though Joan Rivers has been dead like 10 years. Anyway, the crazy thing about them is Joan Rivers and Melissa Rivers starred in a TV movie about that tragedy, playing themselves. That is so unbelievable. I can't think of any other situation in television history that is comparable.
There's a DVD of it about 10 feet away from me right now. There is also a DVD of Wendy Malick playing both Dear Abby and Ann Landers, which I would say in a TV movie, which is the other thing that you should compare to it. Lewis, you need to come over.
Excuse me. Oh, sorry. You think I haven't seen the Epi Letterer story or whatever that was?
Take my advice.
That was in the 90s. Wendy Malick, Valerie Bertinelli's co-star on Hot in Cleveland, played both Ann Landers and Abigail Van Buren in wonderful period attire, from what I remember in that movie.
Yes.
Guys, make this a triple feature with these old broads, starring Elizabeth Taylor and Debbie Reynolds, and I'm in.
Well, I mean, Debbie is the template for this. I mean, like, Debbie having, like, Eddie Fisher stolen by Liz Taylor, like, is the thing that told us how to tell these stories. There were times when, like, it was almost sad how much the Jen Aniston, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie story was just stealing from this thing that happened 40 years before.
It was plagiarism, for sure.
Yeah.
Debbie Reynolds hosting a press conference right after Elizabeth Taylor stole her man. She came outside in pigtails with like a baby bottle, just making herself seem as like innocent and like wronged as she possibly could. That is genius.
Also, talk about very sly humor. I mean, over the years it would get more obvious, but Debbie Reynolds was like not here to be polite with the joke. If you haven't recently seen her impression on Larry King of Meryl Streep's acting, Debbie Reynolds took some notes over the years and was not super nice about it. But man, is it fucking hilarious. Yeah, I can't believe we haven't brought up Elizabeth Taylor yet. I mean, I think the thing with Elizabeth Taylor is that's the rare case of somebody whose coupledom with Richard Burton was so well encapsulated in certain films, namely Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, but a couple others too. If you haven't seen The VIPs, that's a weird movie. But those are two people who seemingly their energies were born to match each other, both in terms of vigor and witheringness, and also just the sense of legends descending on each other. Like they were just meant to be that famous, meant to be that big, and they could only be with each other. They could only be understanding of one another's career and journey.
That's how I feel about Bennifer.
Now, okay, let's get into Bennifer for a minute.
Like Bennifer, I would say was like there was too much nucleus on that atom. It had to explode. Like it was just too much at that point in time.
But now do you feel that the core has cooled and they can function?
The thing is it would make me sad that I don't get to watch a movie about it. I want like the notion of like comedies of remarriage or getting back together are the best kinds of romantic comedies. And seeing these two people who have grown enough and matured enough to be able to come back together would thrill me so much.
Now, Brooke, does Ben Affleck have a pull on you as a straight woman? Because I always feel like I don't really speak the language of Ben Affleck.
He absolutely has a pull on me as a straight woman. And the things that he does that some might cause some to deem him less attractive, like the giant phoenix back tattoo. For me, it just makes the pull stronger.
But also it seems like you're a big fan of Bennifer, and why is that?
Huge. I literally have a replica of the original pink diamond engagement ring. It's a cubic zirconia, obviously, but I mean, I wore this unironically in the early 2000s because I'm like that big of a fan of this relationship. I think what I love about them is the same thing I love about Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton is that they aren't afraid to be stars. Like when they pulled up to Venice this year and they put on a show for the photographers and she's like posing in a gondola and like couture and like he's, you know, opening the door. I mean, they are like not afraid to give us what we want. And I'm so sick of like all the like false humility bullshit with like modern celebrities. Like I want wattage.
When she gives us content that is on par with who she is, it is so satisfying because you just want that experience to wash over you. And when you have something like Hustlers, you're like, fucking yes. Like, give her every nomination. I don't want somebody giving me a speech about their process. I don't want somebody showing up in something they already had in their closet. I want somebody doing the fucking job.
Yes,
you know
exactly.
You know what's interesting about her is, I mean, I remember once upon a time, the only tabloid news story was her and then Puff Daddy. And now that has totally faded from view. Like, I feel like nobody brings them up in context with one another. And it's like almost a dead reference. And I wonder why that is. Maybe just because Ben's wattage, as you say, is more interesting. And he's sort of like comes and goes as a celebrity and you're kind of rooting for him because there's something unsafe there too. Then again, Puffy was offstage too. I don't know.
It's the same reason we don't talk about Mike Todd, even though he had major charisma.
Yeah.
Because Burton came along and that just became the dominant story.
On the subject of Mike Todd, I would like to say anyone who is famous for their genital size years after their death, a Mike Todd, a Sid Caesar,
Milton Berle.
I'm always in awe. But I had a question about same energy, like celebrity couples. Did Helena Bonham Carter and like Tim Burton, did Tim Burton change Helena Bonham Carter, or did he open up the Helena Bonham Carter that was always there?
I mean, it did seem like before that she wasn't quite a character in a Best Animated Short. There was something that happened via Tim Burton that led us to her being a claymation thing. That said, I do feel like she was an ooky dresser from the start. So it felt like, I think he coaxed something out of her, but it was also already present.
But it's always lovely when you have two people who are together for a period of time and then separate from each other, but have clearly like gained something from each other and like been changed in a very the end of Wicked kind of way.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, they're a cool couple, but I guess I saw that situation as kind of a Nicolas Cage, Lisa Marie Presley thing where it was more like this person is relevant to my interests. Like I thought that she just kind of like fit into his sort of world.
Yeah.
But like I don't want to diminish her. I mean,
well, no, but the thing is, like the thing that you're saying about Bennifer, about Richard Burton and Liz Taylor, is it is two people legitimately having to deal with two big presences, two big careers in the same location, and so frequently that fucks with a guy's head so hard that he can't deal. Watching guys go from dating an icon to dating a very nice girl who's 20 years younger than them is like, it's always a fascinating operation.
Did you know that Elizabeth Taylor and Jeff Goldblum dated?
No. What?
I know.
I was just thinking about, is this controversial? I might be done with Jeff Goldblum. I feel like I have seen him do the thing he has done. I recently watched The Big Chill. It's like, wow, we've been doing this for close to 40 years now. All right.
Frank Langella wrote a book that is
Drop Names, great book, yes.
Yes, but his description of Elizabeth Taylor trying him on as a possible beau is like so beautiful and made me feel more sympathy for her than anything else I have experienced. It was a little creepy, though.
I need to read this.
Yes.
This is also a good point just to bring up that I think Elizabeth Taylor ultimately is the greatest star. I feel like she's the rare case of somebody where the more research you do about her, only the more you like her. Like, I mean, it's not just the philanthropy, it's the way she took roles. Like, also being people ascribe her stardom to just being glamorous. But no, if you watch like Butterfield 8, which is basically a derided Oscar-winning performance, it is a funny performance. This is somebody who like was really handy with a one-liner, and like you wanted to feel like trash in her presence. Like there's just something about her that was so rad. The word for her is rad.
She's incredible, and the interesting thing about her is even though she had, you know, a tumultuous personal life, nobody who was in her personal life ever had a negative thing to say about her, which I think is very telling. I think she was like just a person who, yes, she was high drama, but ultimately just so good. And yes, she is my favorite celebrity. So obviously I'm going to cape for her, but like, I love her.